Alrighty, welcome back. Another episode of Post-Fades and Cheesesteaks. Took a little bit of a break. It was the holidays at Christmas and New Year's, so everyone was with family and stuff. So we didn't even get to recap Saquon Barkley's 2,000 yard season when he hit that last week.
Very true.
Um, which congratulations, round of applause,
Of
Mr. Saquon.
course. So we'll real quick, clickbait and all.
hmm
Yes or no, they should have started him or let him go for the record.
I still would have let him play like a quarter and maybe like to see how it was going. But like there were quite a few players who got hurt this past weekend. So
Very true.
like I think it was Zay Flowers got like banged up a bit. Um, was it Christian Watson for the Packers tore his ACL? Like that's
Yeah,
pretty big
that
for
was
them.
unfortunate. Yeah.
Now they play the Eagles. So I'm okay with him not like my thought is like this will be like would it have been awesome for like his first season with the Birds to eclipse the record with against the Giants? Sure. But if he got 2,000 this year, like there's no reason he can't do it again next year. Maybe he gets a little closer next year, but um, yeah, I'm like 50-50 on it, but now that everything's settled down, I'm like we're focused on playoffs. I think
Yeah.
this team is more locked in than the one we had last year. They seem like they
Yeah.
really just want to win. Like AJ Brown, like besides that one week where like the media was making a big deal out of nothing, like he's been very quiet. He wants to win. Um, Jalen's been quieter than usual this year too, I think. Um,
Well, yeah, I
so
mean, this is what it came down to. I mean, does
yeah,
he want to be Jamar Chase, Triple Crown winner, but sitting at home for the playoffs or
that's great.
into the playoff season?
We had
I'll say
I was just gonna
the
say Burrow Burrow led the league in receiving or passing yards. Saquon led in rushing, and Jamar led in receiving. And those two of those players aren't in the playoffs. Like that's
wild.
crazy.
It's just a wild situation then Cincinnati. I was really pulling for them. Carson
Same.
Wentz let everyone down. We really wanted to see him
Oh,
in the playoffs.
The Chiefs did not want the Bengals to make the playoffs. They lost on purpose. There's there's no
That is
way.
true. Ironically, it's like funny thing to think. It's like the Chiefs were probably the biggest team that didn't want to see them, and they controlled their own fate in a reverse way.
Yeah. But hey, gotta win those games early in the year. So
I mean, that's yeah. The Bengals do this to themselves every year. They
oh
did
yeah.
fire their defensive
Yeah.
coordinator, which is kind of a crazy drop off. Because remember, just like 2 years ago, he was getting head coaching nods. But life comes at you fast in the NFL. Um, I will say my quick thought, three things I thought on the Barkley rushing record.
Okay.
One, because they pulled him in like the second half of the Cowboys game. Like there was still time, or like there was a quarter or so,
They
you
got
know.
pulled like the beginning of the fourth quarter. Once he hit 2,000 yards, they were like, "You're done."
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that was the thing. I would have liked to seen him gone for it more that game, knowing that you had the week in hand against the Giants.
Yeah.
Second thing is, I mean, I hate to say it, but he would have had an asterisk against the record. They would have put the 17 game asterisk against him for that. It would have, it's he'll still have the record and all, but people would throw that out there every single time. Let's be honest.
I
And
mean,
then
yeah, but
third,
he would have had less touches probably. I don't think the games matter. I think it's more of
he'd be the first
touches.
one. He'd be the first one ever in that 2000 club with 17 games. So I think it would have been brought up, not enough to risk it. And the third thing
Mm.
being, man, 2000 club, I think is one of those rare airs in sports. He's one of nine. Like that's extremely impressive.
Yeah.
In a way, that's like a milestone in itself. You don't have the record, but you're one of nine. I think that put yourself in like a record-setting club, and that it's impressive its own right.
And you're
Uh,
we had Saquon hitting 2K and we had one of your favorite players, Mr. Mike Evans, hit
it's true.
his 11 straight seasons of 1,000 yards or more receiving, which is only Jerry Rice has done that. So
Pretty good
hope
company.
he reminds me he's like the Frank Gore of receivers. Like I feel like Frank Gore really didn't get any flowers till like the end of his career, but he was so good for so long. And like Mike Evans is probably gonna be a Hall of Famer, I would assume. And he's
Yeah,
like never talked about really. But
no, he's just like this. I mean, this streak in himself is kind of like it's almost like The Undertaker. The Undertaker, I think, is elevated in the WWE rankings. Granted, he's awesome, but the
Yeah.
streak was like something that
Oh
you couldn't
yeah.
take from him.
Yeah.
That was just
They should have never
made
let that
him
streak end.
just an upper echelon. Oh yeah, it was a
That was
disaster.
so
But Mike
stupid.
Evans, I feel like gets in the Hall of Fame because of this 1,000 yard streak. Say he like dropped it, didn't go 1,000 yards year 5 or year 6. Probably not a Hall of Fame wide receiver.
Yeah. It was
But
funny
needless to
though.
say,
Like it shows how like toxic social media can be because people just comment things when they're uneducated about like people are like, "Oh, yeah, well he did it in 17 games, so it doesn't really count." And everyone was like quick to correct. They're like, "Actually, Mike Evans missed like 3 or 4 games this year, so he didn't even play 17 games." But
point number 2 on
try
the
to
Saquon
troll.
Barkley thing. That's one of my points. I'm telling you, the 17 games would have
I
been
think it's
thrown into that conversation.
I don't know. I think it's more of touches than games. Like Eric Dickerson was probably the entire I don't know who was on that roster, but I know the one game he had like the last like 4 games of that season, he had like 100 like 70 plus every game. And I'm like, that means he's getting the ball a lot. Like he still has like 30 more carries than Saquon finished with. So it's like,
Hey, I hear you. I just think I know the 17 games would have been something that would have been an asterisk next to the record. It'd be the
oh,
first of that I'm aware of, the first record that would have fallen in a 17 games season. I don't think any other big records. No, it's only been like 2 or 3 years, but
that's why I would kind of wish he somehow did it in 16, but obviously would have had to have
listen,
a
he got
insane
2K in
game.
16. That's the milestone. 2K in 16. They
Let
can't
you know
take that
what?
away from you.
Yeah,
One of nine. One of nine in NFL history. That in itself was super
yeah, let
impressive.
let
There
Eric
was no need to
Dickerson get
push
his record.
yeah. Let him have it. There was no reason to push the boundary. But I mean, going off that, did you watch the Mike Evans live play? Because he got it on the last play of the game in a game they already won. It was like
Yeah.
they should have kneeled it. It would have been hilarious if they like threw a pick six and lost the division and all that. But I've never seen a bigger reaction from a play that had nothing to do with the outcome of the game. Like the game was already done, set, and the place went wild. It
Uh-huh.
was amazing. The players are going crazy. Mike Evans just sprinted off the field. It was awesome to see.
Yeah. There's a there's a lot of questionable decisions coaching wise, I feel like, because like Saturday we had the Ravens play the Browns and then the Bengals play the Steelers, but Lamar Jackson was in that game until like 4 minutes left and they had a comfortable lead and I was like, what are you guys doing? Like he should have been out by the middle of the third quarter, but
He's,
and he's still running around like could get hurt on any tackle, but
padding them stats for the MVP.
and who else was still? I mean, even the Vikings still had all their players in until they were getting. It was close at half, and then the Lions just poured it on. Jahmyr Gibbs had 4 touchdowns, but
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, but we'll see. I mean, not too many injuries. Zay Flowers, I don't. He went out. I think I don't know if it was concussion. So we'll see if he's good to go for the Ravens. But the Packers lost. Christian Watson to an ACL. So that's the trick of like, do you play a player? Do you let them sit? But
Well, I mean, the Packers had to play. They had reason to play.
I mean, I'm pretty sure they had a wild card spot locked up. It was just seeding.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a big difference between going to Philly and playing the Eagles and going to
Oh,
LA and
oh,
play the Rams.
of
I mean,
course, yeah,
that was plenty of motivation to play.
yeah, yeah. And that's like I would have like the Vikings and Lions were playing for like a bye week. So,
Also a big
um,
thing to play for.
yeah, for sure.
They
But
really, I mean, the NFC wise, everyone had a reason to play, minus the Eagles.
yeah, yeah,
So
pretty
yeah,
much.
why about yeah? Because I think the Rams even came down to the third and fourth seed with the Buccaneers, and then the Bucks obviously didn't even have their division locked up.
Yeah, well, the Rams lost to Seahawks, so I don't know.
Yeah, I
Not
don't know how
not
that one
sure.
works. There was a whole bunch of different
This is
things.
this is why the first week and the last week of the season you never bet on any kind of money line
No,
or over under
unless you're
because
degenerate.
because it's so like Gerard Mayo like probably knew he was getting fired, which I still think is kind of crazy. He got fired in one year.
Yeah,
Um, he was like, "Well, fuck y'all, I'm gonna win this game," and they beat the Bills, so ruined the Patriots' stock a little bit on the draft. Um,
I'll give the
I don't know.
schedule makers credit because this goes into like it's the last week of the season. Half the games aren't interesting. The Saturday lineup was perfect. You had
Hmm.
the Bengals and the
The tease of
Steelers.
yeah.
Yeah, obviously the Steelers made the losing made the Ravens game interesting, and the Bengals winning made the rest of them interesting. So that was a perfect lineup. The 6 o'clock window was like the perfect window of most of these games don't matter, mixed in with draft position games.
Hmm.
Like you had teams that were either in the top five or could not have cared less, probably weren't playing anyone serious. And then you got into the 9 o'clock window, which was all these teams are competing for seeds and divisions, and there's like five games going on at once, all looking at the scoreboard. Even the games that didn't matter. Like, let's be honest, that Denver game was extremely important, even though Carson Wentz was playing with a whole bunch of backups.
Yeah, I think Miami like pulled starters because they saw the score of the Denver game, and I'm like, it's your last game of the season. What are you pulling starters
Yeah, that
for,
one.
bro?
Yeah, okay, yeah, go get your money. You send people out there, make them earn their money, and then obviously you had the best game of the season at the Sunday Night Football.
Mm.
The schedule makers were on one. I thought that was very good, considering like you got to make some of these games competitive that have no interest. I think they did a very good job.
I don't know how long they've been doing this, but they've been making the last game of the year always a division battle. It's always your interconference teams. So, but
Well, it makes the most sense.
oh
A
yeah,
lot of division games come down to that. Um, you know, rivalry games at least. The Eagles no, had no interest in that Giants game, but if they were playing for something, you give them on a rivalry game kind of thing. Yeah,
no, no,
fun week nonetheless. Fun week
always,
nonetheless.
yeah.
It's always good to see the Eagles win, regardless if it mattered or not. Tanner McKee now. Dude, he balls. I like Tanner McKee a lot. He's got an arm on him.
Yeah, I was like I was telling you before we got on. I wasn't able to watch the game because I was so far north Pennsylvania. I was at a cabin with some friends that I was getting the New York game, so I was watching the Bills lose to the Patriots. But I listened on the radio, which is like felt very old school. Um, and yeah, it sounded like Tanner McKee, and I caught some highlights. He looked pretty good. I saw some highlights. Shipley, it looked like he had some burst. He looked kind of quick.
He looks pretty good too.
Dotson, did he finish over 100? I know he was like 90
Uh,
something.
he existed.
He
He,
existed. Goddard had some good touches, get him back in the groove. But yeah, Tanner McKee looks. I mean, 6'6". Like, he's not very
he's
mobile,
he looked good though, but he's got a
but
good
yeah,
arm.
good
I
arm.
like the plays. Even the week before when Pickett got hurt, I think he pretty much cemented he's your backup quarterback next year,
Oh,
or at least I'd like to see it.
I would think that teams would possibly call for Pickett because I think he's still under contract.
I don't know why Pickett looks awful.
Well, yeah, but eh.
I mean, hey, if they want to call, I'll take every
Kenny
call they
two
want.
gloves.
Yeah, but even in preseason, Tanner looks so much better than Pickett.
Yeah, I think when they do like, training camp stuff, they'll take over second. But
Yeah, I mean, this days it's good to find a nice young backup like that. There's the general mill of backup quarterbacks. We saw a lot of them this week. Jimmy Garoppolo was out there for some reason.
oh, was
Carson
he?
Wentz, yeah, he played for the Rams. I don't really understand what
Oh,
happened there, man. You know what I did see from Carson Wentz though? He was taking sacks. I was like, this man never did this. He was just,
I saw he was starting. I didn't get to see what his stat line was. Curious now. It
I mean, I
wasn't.
don't think it
It
was
couldn't
very
have been good
good.
if he had 0 points.
The few highlights I saw, he just was taking sacks. I was like, that's not bad. Carson would usually, hold on to the ball way too long, not take the sack and throw an interception.
It was a weird. It looked like the Chiefs weren't even. What? Hold on. What were the Chiefs? Holy shit! The Chiefs only had the ball for 18 minutes. The
He was
Broncos
taking a
time
lot of sacks.
Broncos time of possession was 41 minutes.
It was
Yeah,
it was definitely an ugly game.
Carson only threw 10. He threw 17. He was 10 for 17, 98 yards. I mean, he no interceptions.
That's what I mean, man. He was careful. He took his sacks. That was something he wasn't doing with the Eagles.
Let's see how many sacks were there. Sacks allowed 5. Oof. Eh, that's a
Progress.
weird game.
There was a lot of big scores for some weird teams. Like the Cardinals dropped 47 on the Niners.
Yeah, the sacks were
You know,
so bad that the Chiefs only finished with 98 total yards.
I
And
mean, granted,
meanwhile,
he was
Broncos had
playing with no one.
479 yards.
Yeah.
That's like the biggest disparity I've ever seen in a game.
Yeah, it's week 18 for you, man. It's a fun time to be alive.
Well, that'll ruin all the defensive stats. Now the Broncos defense will look 10 times better.
Yeah.
But
Hey, man, it's all about those incentives.
all right.
Even better for Mike Evans, 3 million, and you keep your streak going. No one had a better day. That was the best 5 yard reception in NFL history.
I know the Ravens also broke. I don't know if it was more like team records, but I remember they were saying that they broke a bunch of records. Oh, I think they had the most. So I think the Bills had the first team to have 30 passing touchdowns and 30 rushing touchdowns. And I think the Ravens were the first team to have 4,000 passing yards and 3,000 rushing yards, I believe, or something like that.
I can believe it.
But yeah, you're a lot of big offensive numbers this year, obviously. So, um, but we had quite a down to the wire picks, our game picks. Would not have predicted this when we started the season, but so obviously third, well, not obviously, but third place. Shout out to our guest picks. Um, you guys finished. We had Patterson finish out the season on week 18. He went 10-6, so good job,
Nice.
Pat.
There you go. Tough week.
So guest picks at the end of the year went 169-103. It's a good record.
Okay, not bad.
And then I went. I had a 1 game lead on you. I
Oh,
went. I went eight and
that's
eight,
awful. 8-8.
and you went 9-7. So
Okay.
we finished tied to end.
Wow.
To end. We picked 272 games, and we somehow tied at the end of it.
That's a
So
big disappointment. None of us are happy about that.
we finished 175 wins and 97 losses.
Hmm. Okay. I guess,
Yeah.
it's better than, you know, losing,
Maybe
but
maybe we'll have to use
I'm
the
not thrilled
playoffs
by
as
it.
a
Tiebreaker.
tiebreaker or something. But
After all the
I know
games,
that's
maybe
fucking
we got to
wild.
spice it up a little bit more. We follow each other's lead too much.
Yeah, I mean, I when I picked it. I was pretty safe. 'Cause because I knew I had a 1 game lead, I wasn't trying to do anything wild. I dabbled in the idea of taking the Patriots. I wish I did. Um,
It's a tough week though,
but yeah. So, but hey, great drive all around from all of our guest picks, and I'll trying to work on getting all their Super Bowl picks so we can do that like every year. We have all of our guest picks or pickers put in their Super Bowl winner and matchup. So see how that looks. But speaking of playoffs, well, actually before playoffs, Tim, do we have studs and duds for last
Of
week?
course, for the last week, gotta, give the people what they want.
Of course, of course.
Tough week to pick. It's week 18. It's not much going on. A lot of bad performances from players that don't normally play. A lot of
Hmm.
stat padding from players that are pretty good. Good mood, bad mood, probably feel probably good mood. Well, obviously, we're going
Yeah,
to the
good mid, good
playoffs.
mid. Yeah,
All right, well, kicking it off, gonna start with I think we already mentioned him. Make an argument for putting him a little higher, but like I said, I've never seen a bigger reaction for a play that had nothing to do with the outcome of a game. But a 5 yard reception that continues your 11-year, 1,000 yard streak and gets you an extra 3 milli, that is stuff of legend. It was
yeah.
truly amazing. So you got to pour one out for Mike Evans, who puts a cap on. I think this was the closest he's ever been to missing it, but had his 5 yard reception at the very end of the game, got himself to his 1,000 yards, keeps the streak alive, keeps things moving. The Buccaneers win the division. All in all, great time. Great
Hmm.
time to be alive for the Buccaneers fans.
Yeah. So for a long time, it was our Keenan Allen versus Mike Evans debate. I think I could say Mike Evans has a bit of an edge now, or
Told
has
you.
had an edge. But
About time you figured that one out.
yeah, yeah. Well,
All right, we'll move along to a guy who, you know what? He's going to be one my early name to watch going into next year. There's always names to see, rookies, of course, players on new teams, new coaches, whoever wins the Super Bowl, if they can run it back.
right.
But he had a nice ending to the season. And this game might have been his best. 25 of 34, three tutties, 251, put, another 24 on the ground with two tutties on the ground.
Hmm.
5 touchdown game.
Hmm.
44 points, knocking off a team that realistically had a chance at the division. We're going with Bryce Young here.
He's been looking good the last month of the
Things
season.
have really turned around. Like I mean, dead to ashes. Like wrote off. I did say when we put Dalton in that eventually they would realize that, the Panthers suck and it's not just Dalton or Bryce Young. The team
Yeah.
stinks. And Bryce Young would get a second chance, but man, a 5 touchdown day, no picks, no turnovers, and you
Hmm.
beat the Falcons, you ruined their season. I mean, the Falcons, I think realistically could have won the division. No, I mean, I think the Buccaneers had to lose and whatever, but pretty solid game from him. I was good to see. Guy, I think easy to root for because he's had a very rough start to his career. But
Yeah.
be
It's
interesting
a
to see
feel
how
good
things go
story.
next year. Oh yeah, definitely be interested to see what happens next year. I think it's fair to say he's going to be the starter. It's really early, but
I would assume, yeah.
I mean, your franchise is tied to him. You've seen
I
enough at the
mean,
end of the
go into the
year.
offseason with a bunch of confidence, get him some more weapons in the draft and build that lineup for him, and maybe he'll make something of himself.
I think that would be good. I mean, they've had a lot of money. They brought in some players, but they kind of all stink. Deontay Johnson was an awful pickup. Miles Sanders, we knew was going to be overpaid, and that was coming from an Eagles fan.
He was
Thielen, I
injured all
think's been
year, though.
okay, but he's past his prime.
I
They
think
spent some
Dylan's
money on
he's a good
linemen.
vet to have around, though.
Yeah, but he's not a number one wide receiver like they've
Oh,
been
no, no.
playing him as.
Well, that's because they trade everyone.
Yeah, that's
They
true.
traded they traded two receivers, so number three becomes number one.
Yeah, I think I mean, if they can get him some weapons to have some nice draft picks, maybe. I mean, they're still a ways away, but if he can keep going in the right direction, I think yeah, there's still hope there.
Hmm.
I mean, something to take, I think, for other owners. David Tepper took a step back and things dramatically started improving by the end of the year.
Shocker.
Ending this one, so we had two guys that it was more of a season kind of stud recognition. This one, we're just going to go with I mean, guy had the best week by far by anyone. A lot of games that didn't matter. This one mattered a lot. Best game of the season, arguably. Went for 4 touchdowns, 160 scrimmage yards, and really just took over the game. Go
Hmm.
with Jahmyr Gibbs here.
Phew.
Yeah,
Baller.
he is a baller, man. He looked good. I thought David Montgomery going down would kind of hold him back a little bit because
Yeah.
he'd be asked to do more of the, running in between the tackles kind of role. But it has not slowed him down at all. He's killing it. He's so good.
He showed a lot of vision and patience in that game too. Like he was like waiting for the blocks to develop and then he would burst through and he is so fast too. So,
Yeah, he's impossible to cover too. He's tough. That's the problem is you can't like they've got two really solid wide receivers and Laporta's great that you
mm,
really can't afford to put any top-notch coverage options on him, which you really need to because he cooks every linebacker you put on him or any, lower level safety. He's a baller. Probably the biggest, most important part of that offense.
we shall see.
Alrighty, moving on to the duds. This guy, I'm curious to get your opinion because I think I could be wrong, but I believe he's eligible for an extension this offseason. And man, he is the most up and down polarizing player there is. I think his attitude hurts him a lot as well.
Okay.
But this was another one of those games that drives you nuts because he had in a game that the Steelers had to win this game. They absolutely needed to win this game. He had three easy drops, like in his hand, just bad drops. He finished with one reception for 0 yards.
Uh-huh.
And he's supposed to be your number one wide receiver. Really, I don't see where this one goes. We're going with George Pickens here. I mean, they were in his hand. They were
Yeah.
just clear, obvious. Forget stepping up in a game you need to win. Just do anything. One reception for 0 yards? That's like Dakota numbers. If I put you out there on the field, I think you could probably do something similar.
I think I might get a couple positive yards, before I
It
get
was a
like
stretch.
laid
Yeah.
out, put on a stretcher, but
If you catch the ball, I think you could get at least 1 yard.
I
I'll give
I,
you that.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
Just
Now,
bob
Jordan.
and weave.
Pickens, what do we think? Because the narrative on him is really soured. Is he even a Steeler next year? Early, but can't help but think we're in the off
He
season.
is the most typical Steeler wide receiver. He ain't going nowhere. He fits. You could. I don't know what's in the air in Pittsburgh that every couple seasons they get the strangest wide receiver in the league to be on their team. Um, but he's got talent. He just needs to lock in. I don't know what his deal is. I don't know why he's so out there. Um, why he can't settle down. But yeah, he was. I mean, he was ch like chomping at the fans too. I'm like,
Yeah,
yeah, you can't really
really tough
talk if you're
sell.
not doing anything in the game. Like maybe you should
Oh my
focus
God,
on
yeah,
that.
like three easy drops in a game you have to win. He's following
Yeah.
like I think he follows the same career arc as Deontay Johnson. Leaves Steelers and does not do well. Deontay Johnson, I think, is on his third team. Couldn't tell you who he's
I
actually
mean,
playing
I
for
think
now.
Pickens is better talent than Deontay Johnson. Um, he just needs to rein it in a bit. But
He's so inconsistent though.
oh, for sure. But then he'll have like those. He is crazy athletic though. So I mean, if he can just you know grow up a little bit, I would say maturity is probably an issue for him. But I don't know. I don't know how many years he's been in the league at this point, but
He's got to be coming up to extension time.
I don't even
So
know what college he's from, honestly.
Georgia,
Really? Hmm.
yeah,
George from Georgia.
Georgia from Georgia.
Hmm.
So yeah, George from Georgia is our third dud. Second dud, going back to that very important Lions and Vikings game. If I'm Minnesota, man, I'm a little worried. I'm a little worried because Sam Darnold looked a lot like those other Sam Darnold years than he did Minnesota Sam
That
Darnold.
looked like New
Because
York Jets Sam Darnold.
man, he was so off. Every pass was is an inaccurate. He was not picking up open guys. He was scrambling and just could not do anything out of that pocket. By Minnesota, that is a concern because I'm sure every team in the playoffs just saw what the Lions did. And I mean, let's not act like the Lions defense was, this unstoppable force. Half of the, like, I think their entire starting defense going into the year is on IR.
Yeah.
But
They're on their
they
like
came out with a game plan that
third
worked
string
really well,
corners.
and Darnold looked lost.
Yeah, I'm does Danny Dimes take some extra reps at practice this week?
Oh, absolutely not. You can't switch. You're in the playoffs now. Danny Dimes that never sees the field. You got to live and die with your guy, Darnold.
Yeah. We'll
It's
see what
just that was
happens.
uh
We'll
that
see what
was a
happens.
concerning game. It's not like they didn't score a touchdown. And they had plenty of opportunities. I think they were in the red zone like four times.
Yeah. They kept kicking field goals. So
Yeah, and it was he missed guys that were open a lot. Justin Jefferson, I mean, he should have had at least two touchdowns that he couldn't hit them on.
yeah, he was
Really,
holding on to the
really
ball all the
bad game
time.
from. Yeah, it was just you got to get the ball out. I mean, I don't know if the game plan was maybe, making him hold the ball a little bit, but he was so inaccurate on the throws when he finally was releasing it. Just a bad, bad look. Definitely one he's gonna have to clean up because if this doesn't go well right away, the complaints of how overrated he is and this and that will go out the window. A very good season will go out the window real quick if he has
Oh
this
yeah.
game followed up with a first round exit.
Yeah, he went from making a lot of money to maybe not making. He'll still get paid, but it's a
It'll
little
be
bit
an
of
interesting
a
conversation.
red flag. But it could be one game outlier. Who knows? So
So that's our second dud. The third, or first dud, and this one I think transitions into a next topic, which I'd love to get your thoughts on. This one is kind of a cumulative dud list.
hmm,
As we always say, lose your job, find your way on the dud list. Today is Black Friday, or not Black Monday, or whatever you want
yeah.
to call it, where everyone starts getting fired. So just in a group dud, we've got Gerard Mayo, we've got Doug Peterson, we've got Gino, what's his name? Lou Arami from the Bengals.
Oh yeah.
We've got, I'm trying to think who else lost their job today. As of right now, I think it was just those guys, maybe some other coordinators I'm blanking on. But yeah, what's the thoughts? What are thoughts about the ones that got fired? Who surprised you? Who you surprised that still has their job? A couple guys that we were told are staying is the Colts, Steichen and Ballard, Dable and I'm blanking on the GM of the Giants name, Shun, who everyone was making fun of all year because the Giants PR marketing team let him out to dry on that Hard Knocks episode.
Yeah.
They're staying. As of right now, McCarthy's still there, but you never know with Jerry. Um,
Yeah.
I think
I think Jerry's
I
gonna keep him.
I think he keeps them too. But I got to say, my biggest surprise for you, and it's not a guy that got fired; it's a guy that kept his job, and I can't understand why. Trenton Baalke from the Jaguars, the GM of the Jacksonville Jaguars, is going to hire his third head coach. I just mind numbing. And what makes this even crazier is his first head coach hire was Urban Meyer. How he survived that is a miracle. His second one is a proven Super Bowl winning head coach, and he somehow survives this too. I don't get it. This free agent class that he brought in was awful. The Trayvon Walker draft pick over Hutchinson hasn't looked very good. I mean, hell, if Hutchinson finished that season and had 20 sacks or something, that would have been a hard one to explain. I just, this Jaguars team looked so bad this year.
Yeah.
If you want to fire Doug, fine, but I can't see a world where you kept Balky. Like, it's not like he was doing anything beforehand. When the Eagles moved on from Doug, they kept Howie, but Howie had a Super Bowl. Howie had like some good roster development, some good pickups. And since then, Howie's done a very good job.
Mhm.
Since, Urban got fired, Balky's done nothing.
Yeah, I
It's
don't.
mind-numbing to me. Plus, if you're a head coach, who wants that job? You've got a bum at GM that is going nowhere. I can't understand it. That one I just don't understand. Usually it's a clean slate. You bring in a guy, they're tied to the hip, they both got to go, or you keep them both. It's hard to really justify keeping one or the other when it's just a complete colossal failure, which is what the Jaguars had this year.
Yeah. Um, I mean, I'm also put in. I was gonna say one of my too much whiz points, but I'm I'm not as shocked that Dable is not gonna get fired, but the fact that they're keeping the GM as well. Um, I don't like. I don't think they brought in enough talent. I just I think Dable's done a decent job of coaching, but that place is a mess. You have to. I understand the NFL. You can't be as rash as you kind of like the NBA or the NHL, where you fire a coach every fucking season. But I it takes a lot to build a team, and for how much work they need to do, I'm surprised they're going to keep that whole group together. But
I think it's the counterpoint to what I literally just said. I think it's the Giants understanding that if you're getting rid of one, you're getting rid of the other. They're tied to the
yeah,
hip. Basically, Mara came out. He said, I'm going to keep them both, but my patience is thin. The way
mm.
I look at that is if they come out again this season and they're not good, well, then they're both getting fired, and then you're rebuilding this team anyway.
I mean, as a
So you
Gi
might
if I
as well come.
was if I was a Giants fan, I'm reading that as okay, they're going to waste a whole nother year of my life with
Well, I
with a terrible
mean,
performance, and then
well, because I mean, but that's what normal teams do. They kind of tie them together. Because our flip side of that is you fire Shun, you bring in a new GM. He does what he does. The Giants aren't very good next year. You fire Dable, and
mhm.
now you have a GM that's already there that then brings in, you bring a head coach in there. Yeah, I was probably leaning towards the side of, just get rid of him because this team has been rebuilding for years
Yeah,
and they've made some very bad, questionable calls. Um, yeah, obviously everyone will point to the Barkley thing, but I don't think that was as bad as like Danny Dimes.
yeah.
Letting a McKinney walk was a bad look.
Hmm.
Um, but I mean, it's
I mean, on the other hand, they're bad. They probably said, "Look, we're not going to be a great team. Maybe we can win with good quarterback play and not have to sign." Because McKinney and Barkley would have been the highest paid players at some of their positions, so it's possible that they just thought we can't afford these guys. So, but yeah, there's just too much tied to Danny Dimes. So we'll see what they do in the draft. I mean, they need somebody to play quarterback. But even though Drew Lock, lit it up the week before, so
no, he looked awful. So bad. I mean, with the Giants, my final thought, you touched on it, and firing coaches and GMs quickly never works. It just
no,
doesn't work. Now, the Giants haven't seen a ton of success with Shun and Dable, but I can appreciate them, looking at this as, you know, we're going to give you another chance, figure out this year. I like that he came out and basically said, I have no more patience. You better put it together this year or you're done.
Mhm.
Any Giants fan probably doesn't love hearing that because that pretty much, sets the tone of this might not be a good season. But then again, what do you expect? You're not going to be very good this year, regardless if it's Dayball and Schoen or someone else. You don't
Right.
have a quarterback. Your team's not very good. You let a lot of talent already leave. Um, but I think you put them on notice. Hey, this is your year. Figure it out. Show us something. If not, we blow it up. We start it all over again. And as painful as it is, I think that's what you got to do. They both got to go or they both got to stay. That's what drives me insane about the Jaguars thing. But whatever.
Yeah.
So I can't fault them for that. I can understand why Giants fans don't want to be patient, but I can also see why being patient is probably beneficial in this
Yeah.
situation. Now,
But
talking about patience,
mm,
the other fake firing, Gerard Mayo gets canned after one
yeah.
year,
Hmm.
after being the hand-picked successor for
Hmm.
Bill Belichick, and is gone after one year, which kind of baffles me.
Yeah.
That really, what would you have considered a successful season? Because if you look at this, the Patriots found a franchise quarterback in Drake May. That in
Hmm.
it alone should be a successful season. The team stinks. There's no
Yeah.
one, that roster's awful.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not a good team.
I mean, I would think that any coach that can find a franchise quarterback is a pretty good year. But I guess, your patience is gone now. They're just going to throw him out the window, which is pretty shocking because this roster didn't have anyone good to play with. And I don't know. Don't know what the expectation is. I'm thinking he knew Vrabel has to be the guy. They must have known going into that week that Vrabel's going to get hired. We're firing Mayo. We want Vrabel. Nothing Mayo does has any effect. We just want Vrabel instead.
I mean, that's possible because I mean, you are in your first season without probably the greatest NFL coach of all time,
Yeah.
and you give him one season to they have 3, 4 wins, like with a rookie quarterback, a really bad roster, like it's gonna take time to build that team back to what it used to be if it ever gets to that. And
Well, yeah.
now you're gonna make
Naturally, it was.
so unless Vrabel is the plan, then I don't know what the thought process there is. Um, because it was either them or the Jets I saw requested to interview both coordinators for the Lions.
Well, if you Jets, man, Rex Ryan pretty much said, I'm getting the job. He's given himself the job, which is kind of weird. We're going a lot of dipping our toes in a lot of familiar water here. Ryan to the Jets, Vrabel talking to the Patriots. It's interesting to see, but although I will give credit to Mayo, if you must have known that the writing was on the wall because you go
Oh
out there,
yeah.
win the last game,
Oh
cost them the
yeah.
first overall pick.
Yeah, 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 for
True
sure.
Lovie Smith fashion. You gotta love it.
Yeah, they could have had they probably would have taken seems like Travis Hunter is probably could go number one. So that might have been their wide receiver
I
there,
mean, that would have been a great pick for the Patriots, a team that has a franchise quarterback.
These wide
I mean,
receivers.
a team, or hell, you could even trade the first overall pick, like the Bears did, because you
Yeah,
didn't need a quarterback.
yeah.
It's just a curious
Questionable.
situation, but
Who
I
who
mean, he
got
got to have his
the
payback.
Titans got number one pick, right?
Titans are first overall now. Yeah,
I really don't know who they're gonna take, to be honest.
got to be a quarterback.
I don't think Shador is the guy. I don't know.
I mean, I don't really think Shador's that great either. I'm not very high on Cam Ward either,
No.
but you've seen the draft enough times to know it will be a quarterback regardless.
Yes,
They
yeah.
don't have one. Well, they're not running it back with Will Levis again.
Will Mayo Levis.
Yeah, it's got to be a quarterback. Be Sanders or Ward, whoever you want. I mean, I'm not really super high on either of them, but I don't think this class really has a top end quarterback.
Yeah.
But it's the way the league is. You're the first overall pick. What are you going to do?
So, um, what do you think about? So we just talked about Mayo in his first year getting fired. What do you think happens to Antonio Pierce, the Raiders?
Probably stays. Um, like again, his first year, what did you expect was going to happen?
Yeah.
This team was clearly rebuilding. Uh, See, I don't know. I think majority of the reason Mayo got fired is because they want Vrabel. Like you don't just can the guy that you handpicked to succeed, the greatest coach of all time, unless you already know who you're replacing him with. That's and shit, they had him fired before he even like got in the locker room. That was like announced immediately.
Yes, that's
I think, if you're the Raiders, who out there really interests you? The it seems like Ryan's going to the Jets, Vrabel's going to the Patriots, Ben Johnson's the name everyone wants to talk about, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, is Ben Johnson really going to be interested in the Raiders job?
Ben Ben Johnson strikes me as the type of coach that will always be he'll be a superior coordinator, but he might not be a great head coach. I don't know. I just don't know.
You know what vibes he's kind of giving me? Who's the guy that was the OC with the Chiefs before Nagy that was interviewing with everyone. Then he went to Washington. I'm blanking on his name.
Um,
I don't. God, I can't remember his name. The first when Mahomes just broke out, he was the OC with Reed.
yeah, yeah.
No, everyone was wondering why doesn't this guy get a head coaching opportunity?
Oh, enemy.
Bieniemy, that's it.
Yeah.
Ben Johnson kind of gives me those vibes.
Yeah.
It's you can't help but think. It sounds like Johnson's going to have his choice of jobs,
Oh, for
but
sure.
he's kind of pulled his name out of the candidate, the head coaching circuit. I don't know if you're looking for a certain job. Um, I have to think that trying to think who was available last year. The Panthers job could have been an interesting one if you take over Bryce, like what's his face did, Canales.
Yeah.
I mean, Caleb Williams job's opening up. That might be an interesting one.
Yeah. I could see
But
him going to Chicago, but yeah, I'm not sure.
I would think, oh, I mean, I would think Jaguars are a great opportunity for him. He gets Lawrence, but if I'm any head coach, why would I want to go to where the GM just can't die? He just will not go away, and ultimately, you're always going to be a second fiddle to Balky for whatever reason is loved in the Jacksonville front office.
Yeah, I don't. I feel like I'm trying to think. I think the Bears is probably the most attractive job, just because that team does have talent. Like their defense is decent. They have some good receiving core, good quarter. A developing young quarterback who's got a lot of potential. They just need to get that offensive line right, and maybe upgrade the running back spot, and they'll be contenders. But I don't know. The Jets, you don't know what they're doing with Aaron Rodgers.
Although Rex Ryan did come out and basically said, oh, again, he just gave himself the job, so that helps. He said Rodgers is what was it this quote I saw, his country club life is coming to an end if he wants to stay.
Yeah, I'm not sure. He was in his post game. Someone was like, "People close to you said that this is gonna be your last game," and he was like, "Well, there's people said they were close to me." So he's playing his games as like he always does. But I think in the post game with Pam Oliver, he was, which also felt weird that it was the Jets on Fox, but also seemed fitting for Rodgers.
Of
Um,
course.
But yeah, he was like, yeah, I'm gonna take a couple days and evaluate and then talk with the Jets. But who knows? Who knows?
I can't see a situation where he would give who would actually want him.
Well, you got to complete the cycle of life. He's got to go to the Vikings.
Boy, man, if he went to the Vikings, I would pray to keep Sam Darnold.
But I'll cut into we kind of covered some of them, but I'll just hit you with one too much whiz since it's related. So too much whiz. John Gruden is gonna be a head coach in the NFL next year.
Absolutely not. No way.
Really?
He
Really?
just signed his Barstool deal. He's living the good
I
life.
don't know. I mean, his name's been floating around.
I can't see it. He needs after the NFL did him dirty. I mean, say what you want about the emails or whatever, but the
Yeah.
fact that his private emails got hacked in a Washington Redskins or Commanders investigation that had nothing to do with him and cost him his job, there's no way.
Yeah, I don't know where he would go. Jacksonville, maybe.
No, you think he's going to go to Jacksonville where the
Oh,
GM
Trevor
won't
Lawrence.
die?
He
No,
loves
no.
Trevor
Gruden's
Lawrence.
going to a job where he takes over and he has final say on everything, like he did with the Raiders.
Chicago. No, I don't see that either.
I just can't see him going back to the NFL. As dirty as he got done, there's no way he's rushing back.
I don't know. Just a thought. But all right. I think that's enough recap and thoughts on recent stuff. So let's get into some predicting the rest of this year. And guess who we think is going to end up winning the chip. So First, we got Saturday. Do we have a Monday game this year?
Yes.
Who's playing?
Off the top of my head, I don't remember. I know the Eagles play
Schedule.
Sunday.
So I don't know if they always do this, but all the AFC teams play first. So Saturdays, Chargers in Houston at 4:30. That's CBS, and then Pittsburgh at Baltimore, 8 o'clock on Amazon
Oh,
Prime.
I actually didn't realize the Steelers Ravens were locking up. That's a nice little NFC North, matchup. I like it.
AFC North, yeah. Um, then we got Denver, Buffalo, 1 o'clock CBS on Sunday. Green Bay versus Philly, 4:30 on Fox, and then Sunday night, Washington at Tampa. That should be a pretty interesting game.
Yeah, it'd be
Uh,
fun.
they played before when Brady was still at the Bucks in the wild card, and they almost. I think that was the year the Bucks won the Super Bowl, and the Washington gave them a pretty hard time. Um, that's 8 o'clock Sunday night football on NBC. Okay, and then Monday, 8 o'clock on ESPN, ABC, Minnesota at LA Rams. So it should be
Is it
interesting.
wild to start with the Monday? Because I think this is the most interesting game. Is it wild that I think the Rams are going to win that in LA?
I also think the Rams are going to win that.
Something tells me well, I mean, if there's anyone that knows how to
It'd
stop
be the most
Kevin
Minnesota thing to do.
O'Connell's, oh, well, for sure. But anyone knows how to stop Kevin O'Connell's system, it is Sean McVay who created Kevin O'Connell's system.
Yeah.
Something tells me that the Rams have a nice D line. I think they could do exactly what the Lions did to the Vikings.
Hmm.
And everyone saw that tape. I think it's gonna be a tough one. I actually think the Rams do win that one.
All right. So let's get our brackets in order here. So we're gonna start backwards here. All right. So Monday night, you're taking the Rams. I also was thinking the same mindset. I think the Rams are quietly very good. The defense a little iffy. So I would not be shocked anyway if the Vikings end up winning this, but I am gonna go Rams here. Um, all right. And then if we're going backwards, Washington at Tampa. What are your thoughts there?
I think Tampa wins this. You look at a veteran, tested team.
Hmm.
I just I've for the whole season, I always said I think Jaden Daniels is really good. I was never too high on the Commanders roster. Now, granted, they finished strong. They've had a good year. Something tells me that the Buccaneers are going to come to play. They're one of those scrappy playoff teams. Obviously,
Mm.
the Eagles figured that out last year, so I think they pull this one out.
I think Washington's got a bit of a juice going. I think Tampa's a little. I think they're overachieving just a little bit. Um, I think they're a good team. I think they have good coaching, but I kind of like Washington's momentum. So I'm gonna take Washington here, and then see Packers at the Eagles. I mean,
Yeah,
I
but
I was having this discussion with some friends this over the weekend. If God forbid we lose, the Sirianni should he get fired?
no, you're not firing Nick Sirianni if they lose. Now, granted, I'll be pretty pissed. There'll be a lot of anger, but
So my I'm 50-50 on that because my thought is where do you go from here? Like where this team is almost I mean there's obviously issues with every team, but this might be the best Eagles team I've ever seen. How do you get better from here? You know what I mean? Like what
I
if you
mean,
can't get
yeah.
out of the first round of the playoffs, where how do we what are we
My
going to change?
argument, my argument being one, the team is incredibly young. You're replacing a lot of guys. Now, listen, if he gets fired, you ask me next week and they lose, I probably will want to fire him. But rational thinking right now, I would still say no. This is a team that players like Jalen Carter, Cam Jurgens, Jordan Davis, Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell, Nolan Smith, guys that are stepping in the right direction, they'll keep getting better. You know, granted, I will definitely, if they lose, then yeah, I definitely will be on the fire Nick Sirianni wagon. But in my calm head right now, I still say no because find me another coach that's gonna take you to the Super Bowl Then win, well, how many games did we win last year? 12, 13. Granted, it ended like a disaster,
Yeah.
but you fired both your coordinators. He had to replace both his coordinators twice. Each season, he's replaced both his coordinators, and the team keeps winning.
Yeah. I get it, but I'm just saying that's a lot of talent to lose first round after everything we've been through. So,
The other part of me is who are you replacing them with? That's the thing with firing these coaches. Who do you replace Nick Sirianni with?
I mean, that would be the most attractive job in the NFL right off the
Oh,
bat.
without a doubt, everyone would want it.
Yeah.
But the team's too good to risk it with someone that's not proven. I would not feel very as confident with Ben Johnson as I would with
I
Sirianni.
mean, Ben Johnson's offense would be pretty fucking interesting on this team, but
True. But
um,
no, I think we win. I'm not even going to put it in
yeah.
the universe that we lose. I the Packers, I think, are a decent team. I don't think they're anything crazy.
I think they're a weird team.
They're
For
a
them
weird
to,
team,
they're
yeah.
they're 1-5 in the NFC North. Like, how does
Yeah.
that make any sense?
I
Um,
just I they just seem like that first round fodder. They
yeah.
look like they're good enough to make the playoffs, but I don't think they have any chance against like an upper echelon team, which I think the Eagles are.
Hmm.
In Philly, just don't see it. I just don't see it. Now
Yeah.
they did knock off Dallas last year in a similar situation, even though I would say we were much better this year than Dallas was last year. But I don't
Hmm.
think they catch us sleeping.
Yeah. But down one of their receivers, somewhat hobbled. Uh, Love a quarterback. Um, I think we'll take care of business. I'm curious. I really want to see how they come out, how they attack them, what the game plan's like. I want to see how Jalen looks because he hasn't played in 2, 3 weeks now. So I
Yeah,
hope he's
that
not
is.
too rusty here. But
I mean, at the same time, this is a Saquon offense. We've learned that the
oh
last
well,
couple of
yeah.
weeks. This
But
is
that's the thing.
Saquon
If
offense.
they find a way to shut down Saquon, Jari Alexander's done for the year too.
I mean,
So
you're not shutting down Saquon.
yeah,
That I is not a possibility.
yeah. So I'm very optimistic. I think they'll probably win by maybe 10.
Yeah, they'll win. I think they control the game. They'll win.
Yeah.
They did beat them in the beginning of the year. Now, granted, both teams are completely different, but still, yeah, they did beat
I
them.
could see it being close up until half, like a 3-point game, and then they pull away.
I mean, you're not going to blow them out. It's a
No,
playoff game.
no,
Everyone's good
no.
now.
There's
There's no
rarely any
blowouts.
blowouts in the playoffs. But all right, so that's the NFC, and then we get to the AFC. Uh, let's see, we're going backwards. So hold on, Broncos at the Bills. Any chance for Denver here?
No, I like the Broncos. I think Peyton's done a good job. Bo Nix is fun. The defense has been really good. They've had the breakout that I didn't expect to see at all.
Yeah.
But no, I think the Bills are on one in Buffalo. The place is going to be rowdy, and take a Buffalo.
Okay. And then we got I'm taking Buffalo too. Steelers at the Ravens. I can't see a universe where the Ravens fumble this one, so I'm taking Baltimore.
I'll say Baltimore too, but I'll throw one at you. If the Steelers lose, do they fire Mike Tomlin?
He'd have
Because
to
I'll
have
make you listen. I'll make you the argument that sure, Sirianni's got a better team, but Mike Tomlin has not moved the needle for the Steelers in years.
I
They've
don't
been the same first round exit playoff team every single year. And
yeah.
now, granted, Nick was a complete disappointment last year and he gets a lot of crap, but he's brought them to heights that Mike Tomlin has never actually seriously been in contention for.
Yeah.
I just think Mike Tomlin just gets covered up by this. I never have a losing record. It's kind of like the Mike Evans thing we said. Mike Evans would probably never be in the Hall of Fame conversation if it wasn't for the fact that he was 1,000 yards every season.
Hmm.
Mike Tomlin never gets actually any criticism about losing his job because he always has a winning record. But he always has a winning record. They're 9-7 or they're 10-6 or whatever they are, and then they lose in the first round of the playoffs.
Yeah. It's I I agree with you. Like I think if he was on any other team and didn't have the kind of loyalty he has or, you know, moderate success that he probably would have gotten fired already. But I think at this point he'll leave on his own terms. I can't see them firing
I
him
mean,
because you technically you always have a chance with him, right? But yeah,
but
they
you don't. This is when is the last time you saw the Steelers an actual contender? The Big Ben, Bell, and Antonio Brown years. That was a long
Yeah,
time ago.
yeah. Well, they need to draft a quarterback and develop. Like they've been like just like kind of getting by with whatever they had for a while. They had Rudolph and Kenny
I mean, you
Pickett. Now
first
it's
round
like,
pick on Pickett. You brought in Fields
well,
and Wilson. Listen, the shine of Russell Wilson disappeared quickly, and it's not just the
he
quarterback
looked rough
though.
that game. Yeah,
But
last
it's not the
week.
quarterback. Like there's the offensive line's always been a mess.
Hmm.
George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, we touched on this already. They've all disappointed. Najee Harris is a very average running back. The defense outside of TJ Watt, I mean, you brought in Minka, which was a good move. Cam Hayward's still doing it. TJ Watt's obviously incredible, but it's not like they've been this incredible, like such a strong defense that they can keep winning games. Like
Yeah,
there's been some teams that win games because their defense is so good. The Steelers have not been that. They've been a very okay average team that they're a franchise desperate for a shakeup too.
it was valid. I think he could have been fired a couple seasons ago.
What's
Um,
changed?
yeah.
Exactly. They're the same 10-6, 9-7, wild card, first round exit playoff team as they were 3 or 4 years ago.
I think it would be more of like an Andy Reid situation where they're like, look, like it's just we haven't been getting the success we want. Maybe it'd be good for both parties if we part ways, like a mutual, you know, release. But I don't really see Mike Tomlin coaching anywhere else. I think he would just be like, I'm done, kind of done, tired.
Hey, that's fine. If I'm a Pittsburgh Steeler fan, I would want to move on. I'd want something exciting.
I don't
Like
think
what we
it's a
said with the
matter of
Eagles. I think Andy Reid is a perfect example. Well, one, he had a longer period of sustained, like high-end
success.
success,
Yeah.
where Tomlin, I think, won a Super Bowl his first year. And then since then, contended a couple years, but really didn't see it again. But Reed, eventually, we all got to the point where we thought the team needed a new voice, you know. But Reed rebuilt that Eagles team over again. He had McNabb, then he did it with Vic, and then there was a couple other periods. Tomlin's been the same team, same kind of situation for a long time now.
Yeah. I the only reason the fence I could see is like, do you have a better coach out there? But like I said, I think it's the Andrew Reid effect where it's like it's not that you're firing because he's bad. You're firing because like it's just not working anymore. It's a bad relationship. But
I think they just need something new, a new voice.
yeah, spark
Like
something
the
different.
Eagles situation is, I think you need to know what's out there first, because this team, like you said, is awesome. Like they're a Super Bowl winning team right now. You're not going to risk it with an unproven coach. Where the Steelers, I mean, what do you have to lose?
They have a
You're
weird
just
like
you're stuck in the same rut.
they have a weird legacy thing though, because haven't they only had like three coaches in the last like
I
70
mean,
years or
yeah, listen,
something?
I get the legacy. I get that he's never had a losing record. If that's what you want to use, fine, but you're never going to win the Super
No,
Bowl.
no, I hear you. I hear you. All right, so yeah, we're both on Baltimore, and then this one I think is pretty interesting, honestly. The 5 seed Chargers at the 4 seed Houston Texans. Who do you like?
I mean, I've said it all year. I think the Texans are extremely overrated. And why does Jim Harbaugh not get enough Coach of the Year loves?
Hmm?
Because what McConnell's doing with the Vikings is great and all, but if you give me a vote, I'd probably say Harbaugh is my Coach of the Year, especially if he wins this playoff game. And I'm taking the Chargers, and I think there's a better chance he wins than the Vikings do.
This is probably why we ended up tied with our regular season picks because I also like the Chargers beating Houston. I think they've been kind of a mess this year and they've been getting by winning. Um, obviously, I like Joe Mixon, think he's a great running back, but Stephon Diggs still really hasn't done anything for them, I feel like, and Stroud's been kind of inconsistent. Love D'Amico as a coach. Defense gets after it, but I don't know. The Chargers are a weird team. They're just kind of hot right now.
I'm telling you, man, they were what? They're 11-6 now. I think they were 6-11 last year. They were very bad. I don't remember exactly their roster, but like Stroud, I think definitely came back to earth a little bit.
Uh,
You're right. Diggs has been a complete disaster. Nico Collins was hurt. Tank Dell was hurt. And he has done nothing for them.
yeah.
Plenty of opportunity from Stella. He did absolutely nothing. But I don't know, man. Two teams going two directions, but Harbaugh's going to have the Chargers ready. This isn't the Chargers team that had that collapse against the Jaguars. Harbaugh will never let that happen.
All right. So with how that all unfolded, let me see what we got here. So your bracket has you picked Tampa, right?
I did, yeah.
So you'll have Rams at the Lions and Tampa at Philly. Who do you like in those matchups?
Oh boy, man. Tampa against Philly. I do not want to see Tampa. Um,
Yeah.
but I mean,
Little revenge game from earlier in the season.
I am going to lean towards the revenge game.
Okay.
If they beat the Green Bay, things will be going well because I feel like all Philly fans are on edge right now. Like a lot of them,
Oh,
I
we're
feel
always
like,
on edge.
but I feel like the conversation of if we lose this game, does Sirianni get fired is very loud right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they just need to beat the Packers, and then I think we
Take
can
a
relax a
breath.
little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. But right now, I think everyone's on edge of like, man, if they lose this game, I want him to gone. I want him fired. It's just they just need to chill.
It's
And winning against
tough.
the Packers will break that ice.
It's tough because I said earlier, like I really feel like this team is locked in. Because if you notice every post game, um, like shot they have in the locker room after they win a game, Sirianni is always like, all right, great job, but like we want more. Like this is a step. Like we wanna win the big game and all that. So they seem like they really want to win this year. They seem like they're really locked in. So I'm hoping that carries into the playoffs and we don't get, upset in the first round. But
Listen,
I
things are
think they'll
going
be
their way.
I think they'll show up. I think they'll show up.
I mean, you have so much talent on offense that it'd be a miracle not to score.
Yeah.
And then the defense is just hitting on all cylinders. The Fangio system and the young guys are all stepping in and gelling at the same time. I think it's a perfect mixture, but I'm taking them against the Bucks and I'm going to take the Lions against the Rams, setting up the matchup that we all want, that we've all been waiting for.
Unreally spoken about here though is we have Stafford once again playing the Lions in the playoffs, and he's going to lose again.
I think so.
Wow. I think
Yeah,
he'll be
I
0
think,
2 against the Lions in the playoffs now. He
I
might be
mean,
oh he might not have won against the Lions at all yet. If I'm remembering that
I
correctly.
mean, the Rams just they don't really scare me. They've got some good players on defense. Nakua is great. Cooper Kupp is just a shell of himself.
Yeah.
That was a 1 year wonder. It looks more likely.
Um all right, and then my bracket, so I have Washington at Detroit, be an explosive game offensively, and then Rams at Philly. Um yeah, I'm gonna take the Eagles. And I'm gonna take the Lions. I think Washington might put up a fight if they make it to the second round, but against that Lions depleted defense. But yeah, Eagles, Lions, 1 and 2 seed on my side, and then AFC. I think we have the same bracket. So Chargers at KC, Ravens at Buffalo. That'll probably be game of the postseason. Who do you
Yeah.
like?
I mean, I saw this thing. Someone mentioned that like, the Chiefs at 15-1, we could say have looked bad,
The worst
but
15-1 team ever.
yeah. But I forget where I heard it, but they're like saying like, Andy Reid is just calling plays that just to see how they work. He's using like the 10th page in his playbook just to see how these work, just
Yeah,
trialing out plays so that at the end of the year in the playoffs, he can pull out this play that no one's ever seen before. He knows what works and what doesn't work. So they'll be on it. They'll be ready to go. I mean, it'll be kind of crazy. Patrick Mahomes hasn't played, in 3 weeks at that point, but they'll still win. Unless, I mean, if the Chargers win somehow, James Harbaugh will have a statue outside of the SoFi already.
yeah.
So I'll take them, and then I'll take the Bills. I think the Bills are on one. I think the team of destiny.
This is tough because I feel like both Buffalo and Baltimore are like kind of at this point where they're like both struggle to get out of this round, the divisional round. And Baltimore finally got out last year, but I mean Buffalo puts together great seasons and then they just usually get hit with the Chiefs or like another powerhouse team and can't do it. I kind of want to stick with my preseason prediction of Eagles versus Ravens in the Super Bowl, so I almost have to pick Baltimore here.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. I
That's
think I
loyalty right
think
there.
I think I have more confident. I think you could draw both offenses. I think both offenses are phenomenal, but I think Ravens defense gets an edge. So based on that, I'll go with Baltimore. Even though it's
Okay.
in Buffalo, but I mean they both play in cold weather, so it's like whatever. Um, so then I have a rematch of last year Ravens at Kansas City, and then we both have Eagles at Lions. And then you have Buffalo at Kansas City. So obviously, I'm gonna take the Eagles over Detroit, put us back
Of
in
course.
the Super Bowl. I'm sure you're the same there.
Yeah, you know what? Watching the Lions game last night against the Vikings made me more confident that we can beat them.
Hmm.
I like what I saw. Like what? I mean, this was a game up until the third quarter. Like
Yeah,
it was what, 14
I'm
to
I'm very.
6?
I think their offense will escape them out of the first two rounds. Well, they only have to play the divisional round, but I think once they get to the conference championship, whoever they play, I don't think their defense is going to be able to hold up. I think the injuries will catch up, and they'll get the offense won't be able to keep pace with other teams because of their defense issues. But
Yeah, I mean, watching that Sam Darnold debacle, I just kept thinking, man, if Jalen was rolling out here, like, well, one, I don't think he misses as many throws as Darnold did.
no,
But
no,
two, like, Hurts is great when he's out of the pocket and he can use his legs.
yeah,
Like we've seen that more. Like if you want to collapse the pocket and let him get out like that, he's going to take off and just eat you alive.
hmm,
Darnold obviously can't do that, but I mean, even like Saquon, they wouldn't have an answer for him. I thought the Vikings actually did a pretty good job of holding their the Lions offense in check up until the middle third quarter. But at that point, the Vikings just couldn't get off the field or stay on the field or sustain anything. Which I think we would be much better than the Vikings would be in that situation. So
hmm.
yeah, I think we win. On the other side, man, listen, until I'm proved otherwise, I'm just going to keep rolling with it. I'm going to say the Chiefs win. I know the
Oh,
Bills are the team of destiny, and this is their year. They're finally going to break the mold. Josh Allen's going to win MVP, but yeah, until they actually lose, I'm going to keep going with them.
so I got Eagles, Baltimore, Super Bowl, 2 seed in the NFC, 3 seed in the AFC. I'm gonna take Philly. I think it's gonna be tough though because I think anytime you face a team twice in one year, typically you have a better idea of how to beat them. And we pretty much manhandled Baltimore last time we played them.
Yeah,
Um, but I'm pretty confident. I think we can take care of Lamar. I think the defense will come to play, and Jalen will do what he's got to do, and Saquon will win Super Bowl MVP, and it'll be a perfect season for him. So nice to have the birds. I know last year I don't believe either of us had the birds even probably maybe just winning the wild card for the hell of it, but that
yeah,
season was
that's
kind of
true.
toast. So what's
I'm
you got the rematch. So I'll just say I'll let you go first actually. Go ahead and tell me what
I
your
think the narrative is being written.
yep.
The last time we played a Hall of Fame quarterback and Hall of Fame coach and a dynasty on the second time around,
Uh,
we knocked them off. The
mm,
Chiefs are a dynasty. The Patriots were in the middle of a dynasty as well
hmm.
when we beat them. Second time around, I think well, one, this Chiefs team isn't as good as they were the first time. I think Saquon's going to give him a lot of promise, man. Mahomes, he's great, but if you can keep the ball away from him, like we've seen the Eagles do to a couple teams now, I think we can beat him. I mean, we're complete homers that we're both picking the Eagles here, but
Obviously.
sticking with it.
Yeah, go birds, baby. I mean, I what I was gonna say is would okay, if the scenario if your scenario was Eagles make it to the NFC Championship game and lose, and then like the Lions going to win a Super Bowl, or Eagles make it to the Super Bowl, face the Chiefs, but they lose again to Andy Reid and the Chiefs. Would you rather them lose in the championship conference round, or would you rather them lose to Andy Reid again in the Super Bowl?
Oh, always the Super Bowl. I like to be fully invested when
I
I
know.
have my
I
heart
mean,
broken.
yeah, that's probably the right thing to say, but in my head, I'm like, I don't want to lose to Andy twice.
Not see, but that's because you're thinking about something you already know the answer to. If you lose to the Lions, you're like, oh, what could have been if we just beat the Lions? If I knew that, oh, hey, if you beat the Lions, you're going to lose the Super Bowl, then yeah, I probably would be the other way. But it's the mindset of what could have been, because you're going to see the Lions play the Chiefs, and you're going to see Dan Campbell go for fourth down when he shouldn't. We're going to see the Lions get a pass interference call on them that Mahomes gets bailed out on or whatever, and then think, oh, that what could have been us, you know?
Um, yeah, we'll see. So we're both on the birds. Um, I asked Nick real quick because I think in previous years he's hopped on this playoff episode with us, but he said Eagles over Ravens as well. Um,
Wow, you're both on the Ravens. Really? I
yeah,
didn't just don't see it
yeah.
with the Ravens.
But he said he had a bold prediction that no wild card team was going to make it out of the first round. So it means he's got
So
Vikings
who's
and
that?
Houston winning.
I
Or no,
mean,
no, he's got. Oh, he
yeah, the
also has the
Vikings are
Rams, Houston, Tampa,
Eagles.
Eagles, Baltimore, Bills. Because
I
we
mean,
had the Chargers.
and the
Uh,
Vikings.
you had yeah. Well, I had the Rams, Eagles, Washington winning, and then Baltimore, Buffalo, Chargers. So I had two wildcard teams. You had one. He says none will win. So we'll see. But what if you to end the episode? What if you couldn't have a one or a two seed in the Super Bowl? Give me your like perfect Super Bowl like matchup.
What do you mean?
So the Eagles, the Lions, the Chiefs, and the Bills are eliminated. What's
Okay.
of the teams that are left in the playoffs? Who would you think would make a good Super Bowl?
Oh. All right, so take away the top two seeds on both sides.
Yes.
I would have to say I'd like to see the Chargers in it. They're a fun team. You
Hmm.
know, Herbert can put up points. I think they got some good players. And you know what? I'd go with the Vikings. The
Hmm.
Vikings are must-see TV. You know, they've been a little down recently, but I think that would be the greatest. Like, I'd like to see both those redemptions. The redemption story would be great. The Chargers were trash. They get flipped in one year. The Vikings, who I knew a couple of Vikings fans telling me, like, yeah, we just know the season's over. I'm glad they said he's not coming back. We can just write him off. And then boom, you're in the Super Bowl.
I think that's
And
actually yeah, Chargers
neither team
Vikings
has
would be
ever
a
won the
good
Super Bowl.
yeah, that would
So
be a good matchup. I would say hmm. I would probably tally that, but to be different, um I don't think they're gonna get there just because, like I said, I think they have issues. But maybe go Houston and the Rams, I guess. That'd be kind of an interesting matchup. Um, Stafford's last hurrah, or even maybe Tampa. That'd be a weird
Tampa would be a fun one. Love to
Houston
see
Tampa.
Baker.
Houston Tampa would have a lot of energy in it, but
Baker on the Super Bowl media days. That'd be fun.
no, I think yours was pretty good though. Chargers Vikings, so I'd probably take that one. So, all right, well, we'll keep track of this as we go, but Tim and I and most of Pennsylvania are probably rooting for the Birds. But go Birds and peace out.
Peace.
Peace.